I have albinism. Ask me anything. Hi Reddit. My name is Alex, and I have albinism. Proof in description. How concerned are you that, at any moment, an African witch doctor might hack you to pieces and sell parts of your body because of their magical properties? Living in America, I'd say about 2 out of 10. But when I eventually go to Tanzania, I'll be sure to keep my eyes peeled. Because of your bad vision, the whole witch doctors killing people with albinism thing is very much real, but only happens in certain African countries, namely Tanzania, rural Tanzania for that matter. They're actually hosting an albinism conference in Tanzania next month. And although they are providing security at the event, there's little risk in a capital city. Do you ever feel like a rare, shiny Pokemon? All the time. It's awesome. Random aside, I once dated a girl with albinism who was super into Pokemon. Man, that sounds perfect. Why did that relationship end, if you don't mind me asking? Distance. And we didn't have a lot in common. Are there any other traits of albinism most people don't know about? Most everyone is familiar with the pale skin, white hair, and easy sunburns. But few people know that albinism also causes visual impairment. The degree varies, but it's definitely bad enough to prevent most people with albinism from driving, seeing the board in class, even when sitting in the front, etc. I have a friend with albinism that once described her vision as looking into the world, as if you have a fishbowl full of water on your head. I then offered to buy her a fishbowl to put on her head to see if it would reverse the symptoms. Hahaha. Glorious. I wouldn't exactly describe it like that. Vision isn't necessarily distorted, just blurry, like 240p 1080p. Glasses don't help. They make my vision slightly sharper, but definitely can't get me up to 20 out of 20. Laser eye correction? LASIK only corrects myopia, hyperopia, and astigmatism. Our vision problems stem from lack of pigment, a malformed fovea, etc. Glasses, surgery, LASIK, nothing will fix that. Are you attracted to, or would you consider dating a black girl? Genetically speaking, would your kids be a beautiful golden shade of beige? I do have a black friend that I have my terrible eye on. Although being Hispanic, and considering I would be naturally dark skinned, I don't think it would balance out like that. Must have been an interesting childbirth. Honey, why is the baby white? Probably. Followed by a huge fight about cheating and demanding a DNA test. I noticed that you're Hispanic. Have you ever noticed any prejudice from your family because you don't look more like them? Not at all. They actually make fun of me and tease me more because I don't like most Mexican foods, not because of my skin. You should do an I don't like Mexican food or MA. That's gotta be rarer. I like Mexican food. Tacos and quesadillas and tamales and burritos are the shot. Especially authentic, either from a taco truck in California or homemade by my family. All we have here in Texas is Tex-Mex, and it's utter dog shit compared to authentic Mexican. But enchiladas, chilaquiles, birria, stuff like that I'm not fond of. Is your asshole naturally bleached? I don't know, I can't see it. Want me to take a look? Sure. Is it true that if I eat your flesh, I gain powers? Heavens no. Everyone knows that you have to eat the pancreas to gain any powers. Have you ever considered dyeing your hair or any other modifications as such? I've wanted to dye my hair for a long time, but I can't pick a color and I can't get any solid information about whether or not the hair dye would stick or fade after a while. I would also spray tan at least once for the hell of it, and I'm absolutely on board with getting a color tattoo. The colors would pop, but I just need to pick a design. All these things have been considerations. I'm just too much of a wimp to pull the trigger. What was the hardest thing you've ever been through in life? I can't think of one specific event, but overall having to get by with crappy vision certainly hasn't been fun. If you had to choose, would you rather have perfect vision or pigmented skin? In other words, would you prefer to see normal or appear normal? Very unique question, and absolutely I would take the perfect vision. Standing out and easy sunburning are whatever, I can handle those easily. But crappy vision, man, I'd swap in a heartbeat. What's your opinion on Belgian waffles and or pancakes? I like them, especially making them. They're one of the few foods I can make from scratch and not duck up. What do you think of albinism stereotypes in the media? Are they hurtful? They are definitely annoying, especially because a lot of people take them as fact. Cue everyone asking why I don't have red eyes. Sorry for apparently asking a stupid question, but why don't you have red eyes? It's a scatter effect. Same reason why the sky is blue. I don't know what that means, but my old albino hamster had bright red eyes and looked cool. Animals with albinism have red eyes, humans don't. What's the best thing about being an albino? Being incredibly unique. How do you feel about gingers? They're awesome people with awesome hair. Has this impacted you financially at all? I noticed in your proof that it said no additional charge for testing your parents. Where do you live / where are your parents from? Not consistently. Things like glasses and monoculars are fairly expensive, but they are like once in a decade or so purchases. It's not a chronic condition like diabetes that requires constant equipment and constant maintenance. Visual aids are expensive, but one and done. I live in Dallas, Texas. My parents are originally from Mexico. How do you deal with the looks or comments you get from people? Because of my low vision, I often can't tell if people are staring. My face is usually buried in my phone anyway, so it just goes over my head. Comments are few and far between, but they are overwhelmingly curious or positive. Things like asking if I have albinism, or most often just commenting on how much they like my hair. Negative comments are fairly rare, and I just ignore them. I can't imagine what negative comments would be. Any examples? Just your generic "Hey albino." Or, remember when Skittles put a really white lifeguard in their commercial once? Someone made a reference to that. Nothing really overly negative, but not exactly the nicest thing to say to someone either. Does it ever bother you to be referred to as an albino rather than someone with albinism? Personally, no, but I know some people who are incredibly bothered by it. If you had the option to be not albino, you mentioned you were Hispanic, would you take that option, or would you like to stay how you are? At this point, I'd rather stay the way I am. I'm so used to it. I've been to so many amazing places and met so many amazing people, and I get to keep doing these IAMAs. Coming from someone with vitiligo, how do you cope with the sun? My skin burns so quickly where I'm missing pigment. I just try my best to stay out of it. Walk in the shade whenever you can, walk quickly, etc. But when I'm going to be out for long periods of time, I just use sunscreen, applied very liberally. It's hard to gauge. Sometimes you end up applying sunscreen for nothing, other times you don't think you'll need it and burn. Do people with albinism have a higher rate of skin cancer? I don't think any studies have been conducted to compare the skin cancer rates of people with albinism to the general population, but the risk is definitely higher. Hey Jude, we all know kids can be little assholes. So my question is, when you were younger, did kids in your class knew you had albinism? Did they act any different towards you, or they didn't give a shit? I can't speak for whether or not they knew. They never said anything, and I never asked. But overall, they were at least used to me. I grew up with my classmates, so when it came time to form cliques, and for popularity to actually matter, I was already accepted and treated nicely, because everyone already knew me. I wasn't popular, not by a long shot, but I was far from a bullied social outcast. What's the biggest change you've had to deal with? Since I was born with the condition, there really wasn't a transition period. But personally, moving away from home was difficult. How do you feel about all the albino villains in movies? Such as the Da Vinci Code, Matrix, Reloaded, Princess Bride, entire Hobbit trilogy, Jurassic World. It's annoying, and I just wish we could have movies with good guys with albinism. I mean, horror concepts get recycled all the ducking time. Ghosts, paranormal, dolls, found footage films, etc. But when evil villains are people's only exposure to albinism. What color are your eyes? My medical records say hazel, but as you'll see, they're a flurry of colors. Are your pubes white? Yes. Have you ever considered using your coloration as camouflage, like a polar bear? We always made jokes that when we finally went to war with Russia, I would be on the front line stationed in Alaska. Natural camo, baby. Is your duck like solid white? Like tip and everything? Why don't you come over and find out? How many sunburn jokes do you have to put up with? Also, how many people think they're original? None, actually, and very few albinism jokes. Even I don't know any sunburn or albinism jokes. So if anyone comes up with them, they'd be very original. So would you find sunburn jokes appealing? Get out. He burned you with that joke, didn't he? Hi Alex. I've got ocular albinism and nystagmus, so I think I've got the same kind of visual impairment as you. The vague vision, not being able to read street signs, school board, trouble with facial cues, etc. I assume they are pretty similar. OA is just ochre without lacking skin/hair pigment. What kind of job/study do you have? I'm currently majoring in psychology as an undergrad. I work part-time in a psychiatric unit. What are your plans for the future? Medical school, and hopefully graduate school for neuroscience, if I can make it in. What are your hobbies? I myself have been a skater for about 8 years and I've been really into drawing for 3 years and still am. They're really hobbies that get affected by visual impairment, so I'm quite curious to know what someone else with similar impairment does. Here in Texas, I go out a lot. Movies, mall, concerts, the fair, museums, or just a walk around downtown. But I also stay home and do a lot of Reddit, YouTube, Netflix, writing, etc. Just depends on how slammed I am with other stuff. Big problems that you've ran into regarding your visual impairment, and how did you solve them? I might be able to learn something from your experience. Vision is the biggest, and for that I use glasses and several different monoculars. I can cross streets, see bus indicators, the board in class, etc.